A college kid just broke the actual world record in the 110-meter hurdles, and he did it in a qualifying heat. His name is Jacoby Tharp. He is 20 years old, and he ran a time so fast it erased the collegiate record set by Grant Holloway, the man most people call the greatest hurdler alive. This is the story of the impossible night. Here is the thing about world records in the sprint hurdles. They do not fall in qualifying rounds. They fall in finals, under the lights, with the whole world watching, when the best men on earth throw everything they have at a single race. That is the script. That is how it always goes. On 10 June 2026, somebody tore that script in half, and he was 20 years old when he did it. Hayward Field in Eugene, Oregon, the NCAA Outdoor Championships, a qualifying round, which is the part of the meet nobody is supposed to remember. The heats exist to thin the field. You run just fast enough to advance, you save your legs, and you wait for the final. That is the whole point of a heat. Survive and move on. Nobody walks into a heat planning to make history. You walk into a heat planning to get through it. Jacoby Tharp did not get the memo. He set up in the blocks like it was any other race. 110 meters of track in front of him. 10 barriers between the start line and the finish. Each one a little under 3.5 feet tall. The crowd half paying attention because this was a heat, and heats are background noise. A few thousand people in the stands, most of them waiting for the races that actually decide the championship. Then the gun went off, and time started behaving strangely. He cleared the first hurdle and he was already gone. By the third barrier, the rhythm was so clean it almost did not look like effort. His lead leg snapped down over each hurdle, and his trail leg followed like a machine that had been built for exactly this and nothing else. 3 steps between hurdles, every time, no stutter, no reach, no panic. In the sprint hurdles, the smallest mistake costs you. A leg an inch too high, a toe that clips the barrier, a rhythm that breaks for a single stride, and the race is gone. He made none of those mistakes, not one. Understand what the sprint hurdles actually demand. You are running flat out, near top speed, and 10 times across that track you have to throw your body over a barrier and keep your stride exactly the same on the other side. Speed and precision pulling in opposite directions, and you have to win both at once. The men who are great at it are great because they make a violent technical act look smooth. That is what was happening in that lane. A heat, a half-empty stadium, and a young man making the hardest event on the track look effortless. The clock stopped at 12:75 seconds. 12.75. That number is the new men's 110-meter hurdles world record. It is pending the standard World Athletics ratification process, which is the paperwork that turns a stunning time into an official line in the record books. But the run happened. The wind was legal, a tailwind of 1.0, well inside the limit that separates a real record from one that gets thrown out. And 12.75 is now the fastest any human being has ever covered that distance over those barriers. Let me tell you what he broke, because the names matter. The old world record was 12.80 seconds, set by Aries Merritt back in 2012. Merritt's mark had stood for 14 years. 14 years of the best hurdlers on the planet trying to chase it down and falling short. Olympic champions, world champions, men in the prime of their careers, all of them pointed at 12.80, and all of them coming up empty. Tharp took 0.05 of a second off it, in a heat. 0.05 of a second sounds like nothing, until you remember it took 14 years for anybody to find it. And that is only half of what he destroyed that night. The same run also shattered the collegiate record. The previous college record was 12.98 seconds, and the man who held it was Grant Holloway. He set it in 2019, and for years it sat there looking untouchable, because Grant Holloway is not a normal hurdler. He is a multiple world champion. He is the dominant figure of the modern 110-meter hurdles, the standard everyone else gets measured against. When you talk about hurdling greatness, you are talking about him. When a young hurdler wants to know how good he can be, he looks at what Holloway did and tries to get close. Jacoby Tharp did not get close to Holloway's college record. He erased it by more than 0.2 of a second. Think about what that sentence actually means. The greatest hurdler of this era set a college record that everyone assumed would outlast the people watching it. A 20-year-old walked into a qualifying round and ran more than 0.2 faster. Not in a final, not at the Olympics. In a heat at a college meet in Oregon, on a night that was never supposed to matter. There is something almost unfair about it when you lay it out plainly. A heat is a formality. It is the warm-up act. Athletes run heats with the brakes on, conserving everything for the round that decides the medals. Tharp ran a heat and produced the fastest time in the history of the event. He had nothing to prove in that race except that he belonged in the next one, and instead he set a mark that the entire sport will be chasing for years. So here is my question for you, and I genuinely want your answer in the comments. When was the last time you saw a world record fall in a round that does not even count toward the title? Have you ever seen it happen in your life? Because the history books say it almost never does. This was the first world record set at the NCAA Championships since 1976. That is the kind of gap that tells you how rare this is. 50 years between world records at the biggest college meet in the country, and then a 20-year-old from Tennessee shows up and makes it look like a Tuesday. Generations of college athletes came through that meet. Future Olympians, future world champions, all of them chasing greatness on that same kind of track, and not one of them set a world record there for half a century. Until him. It gets stranger. Jacoby Tharp is now the youngest man to break a world record in an individual Olympic running event since Ronaldo Nehemiah did it in the hurdles back in 1979. Sit with that. You have to go back almost half a century to find someone this young setting a world record on the track. He is 20. Most athletes his age are still trying to figure out how to make a final, still learning how to handle the nerves of a big meet. He just rewrote the ceiling for the entire event before most of his peers have even found theirs. And he is not some unknown who got lucky on a perfect night. He was the defending NCAA champion in this event. He had already won at the highest level of college track. He was a former World Under-20 champion, which means he was beating the best young hurdlers on the planet before he ever ran 12.75. The talent was never the question. The only question was how far it would go. His personal best going into that race was 13:01 seconds, which is already world-class, already elite, already the kind of time that makes you one of the best hurdlers alive. He did not nudge that personal best. He did not shave a hundredth off it the way most athletes improve. He blew past it, all the way down to 12.75. That is the leap of a career, and he made it in a single race, in a round that did not even count. So who is Jacoby Tharp? He is a 20-year-old from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, running for Auburn University. That is the whole resume. A kid from Tennessee, a college jersey, and the fastest hurdles time in the history of the human race. He was not born into the spotlight of the senior world stage. He came up through the junior ranks, won as a teenager on the World Under-20 stage, and then walked into the biggest college meet in America and ran a time that men a decade older than him have spent entire careers reaching for and never touched. Put the pieces together, and the picture is almost hard to believe. Defending NCAA champion, former World Under-20 champion, a personal best already among the best in the world. And then, in one race, in one round that did not count, he turned all of that potential into the single fastest hurdles time ever recorded. Most athletes spend a lifetime trying to assemble a story half this good. He has it at 20. If you believe Jacoby Tharp is going to win Olympic gold in Los Angeles in 2028, subscribe right now, because you are going to want to say you saw it before the rest of the world did. Now let me tell you why that night changes everything that comes next. A world record is not just a number, it is a target painted on your back. The moment Tharp ran 12.75, he stopped being the kid chasing the legends and became the line everyone else is chasing. Every hurdler on Earth now wakes up knowing the bar got moved by a 20-year-old and they have to find a way over it. The hunter became the hunted in a single race, and the timing could not be heavier. Los Angeles 2028 is the next Olympics, 2 years away. Picture it. A home games on American soil, a packed stadium, a country watching, and a young American walking to the blocks not as a hopeful, but as the world record holder in his event. The expectation that comes with that is enormous. Carrying a world record into a home Olympics is a different kind of pressure than chasing one. Everyone in that stadium will already know what he is capable of, because they watched him do it. The mystery is gone. All that is left is the weight. There is a version of this story where that pressure crushes him. Young athletes have peaked early before. A perfect race in your 20s is no promise of a perfect race when it counts the most. The track is full of names that flashed once and faded, men who held a record or a title for a season, and then watched someone younger and hungrier take it away. Tharp will have a target on his back from the moment the gun goes off in Los Angeles, and every rival in the field will have spent 2 years studying the kid who beat them before they ever lined up against him. And there is a version where he becomes exactly what that night suggested he could be, where 12.75 turns out to be the start and not the summit, where a home crowd on American soil watches a hometown talent run the race of his life when a gold medal is finally on the line. That is the version this channel is betting on, and it is the version that makes this story worth following from the very beginning. Because here is the brutal part of this sport. Setting the record is one thing, holding it is another. Records get broken. That is what they are for. The same way Tharp took Merritt's mark after 14 years, somebody out there is already training to take his. He has 2 years to turn one impossible night into a career, to prove that 12.75 was not lightning in a bottle, but the floor of what he can do. 2 years to go from the kid who shocked the world in a heat to the man who can win when the whole world is finally watching. The greatness context is impossible to ignore. He did not just break a record. He broke Grant Holloway's record, and Holloway is the measuring stick for the entire event. You do not erase a mark like that by accident. You do it because you might be the one who comes next, the one whose name the next generation gets compared to, the new standard that some 20-year-old in the future will look at and try to beat. But that is the story still being written. What we know for certain is what happened on 10 June 2026. A 20-year-old college student lined up in a qualifying round that nobody was supposed to remember, and he ran the fastest 110-meter hurdles in human history, 12.75 seconds. A world record, pending ratification, set not in an Olympic final, but in a college heat in Eugene, Oregon. The wind legal, the run clean, the record real. The fastest hurdles time ever run, and it belongs to a kid who is barely old enough to drink, who did it on a night nobody was watching closely, against a clock nobody thought he could beat, beating 2 of the most respected names the event has ever produced in the span of 13 seconds. One record had stood for 14 years. The other belonged to the greatest hurdler of the era. He took them both in the same race, in a round that was never supposed to matter, and he made it look easy. So tell me in the comments, does Jacoby Tharp win Olympic gold before this story is over? Subscribe so you are here for every step, because if this is the beginning, you do not want to miss what comes next.